grateful thanks for this beautiful spring weather. All this amazing, as you drive around and see all the trees blooming, and just absolutely amazing how that is. So today we're continuing. We began a process last week on what does unity teach, and we began with what unity teaches about eternal life. And today we are going to talk about the nature of the unity movement and what are some of the responsibilities of unity membership. And one of the things that I forgot to bring in, so you can remind me afterwards, I'm taking all this information from a small booklet that was put together by Audrey Buford, who was president of the board and a unity member for many, many years. And I actually have some of those books printed up, and they're still in the back seat of my car. So I will bring them in, and so afterwards, Susan, if you'll go, you don't need to do it now, but when afterwards people come in, they are $7 a piece for our printing. If you can donate that, it would be appreciated. If not, feel free to take one anyway. It will have all the information that I'm sharing plus, and it's an easy reference. And one of the things that I'll mention in here, but I'll mention it now, is in the back is our bylaws. And so everybody who has that will have a copy of the bylaws, and there'll be other things we can do. So what is the nature of the unity movement? What is this all about? Why is it unity movement? Why aren't we saying unity denomination? So back in the 1880s, our founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, healed themselves. Healed themselves. Now, as we say that, they healed themselves through a renewed understanding of what the teachings of Jesus were all about. And they began to look at it differently, express it differently, first to themselves, and they were a couple, family, living in a subdivision in Kansas City, and in that point in time, neighbors knew about neighbors, and everybody knew who they were and what some of their physical difficulties were, and so they were able to observe what's going on with Charles, what's going on with Myrtle. Something is happening. And Myrtle was also very open at this point in time. She was doing a lot of prayer work herself, but inviting people to come in, doing prayer circles in her house. And so more and more people were wanting to experience this process. And that was the whole beginning of this movement. And the Fillmores considered it neither a religion nor a denomination. So that's something to keep in mind. Unity does not think of itself as a special religion, a new denomination within the Christian movement, but look to it as an educational. Jesus and the Bible were taken, Jesus as our master teacher, the Bible taken as our primary textbook, but neither one as only. Okay, and why would we do that? Okay, they came up with a Christian background, even though they were doing a lot of research, listening to a lot of teachers and speakers, finding out that other teachings, Eastern teachings, well, they had a lot in common with Christianity. Well, let's use what's a lot in common with Christianity instead of saying, we know the Bible, why should we have to learn the Bhagavad Gita, and some of these other things. Let's go with what we know. But again, to expand, to learn, to be an educational movement. And Charles described it this way. Unity is a link in the great educational movement inaugurated by Jesus Christ. Our objective is to discern the truth in Christianity and prove it. And prove it. So there's a big concept as we go through here, and prove it. The truth that we teach is not new. Neither do we claim special revelation or discoveries of new religious principles. Our purpose is to help and teach mankind to use and prove the eternal truth taught by the Master. So what is our belief system? So y'all have a version of this in your your bulletin. Take it out and look at it as I'm reading this, because the words in some of it may be a little bit different will express it. But there are 5 basic unity teachings. We are very simple in this process. So the first is, there is only God, and God is everywhere present. Well, we say that in our first opening. There is one presence and one power in the universe, God, and sometimes we add good, omnipotent, those things. But there's only one presence. That's an easy one to remember. The second one is one that is, people struggle with this process. Human beings are divine in nature, as they are an expression of God, and thus are in eternal and continuous connection with God. Now that's kind of 180 degrees out, is what we get from other interpretations of Christianity. You are divine, I am divine. We are always connected. Which also means, I try and bring it into my prayers, and all those people that we think are wrong, all of those people that we think of as enemies, all of those people that are, heaven forbid, different from me, also are divine. They may not behave that way, they may not know it or understand it, but it's important for me to know that, and for me to understand that. Number 3, humans create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. And I think there's some verses in the Course in Miracles that say something like that. There's no such thing as an unimportant thought or a meaningless thought. Every thought we have. Now, if that doesn't scare you, think about how we go rambling on sometimes. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. Now, I struggle with that in the manifest realm because all the trees and the flowers and all of its nature is also the manifest realm. So, when I look at all the things that human beings have brought into this, none of it is there. Neither our shoes, nor our cars, nor our food, or anything else came without thought. So you think about the creative power of thought. And then, of course, a lot of what we think of as natural, it also comes from human thought as things have been changed and nurtured and done things like that. So human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. Prayer is the activity of God within. And praying, so prayer and then praying, is the human endeavor of consciously connecting with that activity, opening a channel to all wisdom, all love, all abundance, and all peace. So that connection with that divine needs, for us to know it and experience, it has to be done in a conscious manner. Not that it doesn't affect us, but if we're not conscious of it, we don't know it. We're not coming from that place. We're maybe not even aware of it sometimes. Number 5, intellectually understanding the nature of God, which is also referred to as truth, is not enough. So you hear that, folks. Just getting it in your head, just sitting in class, just reading books is not enough. A person must also prove the truth to themselves and live it. You hear that? Prove the truth to yourself and live it. To that end, people are encouraged to question all. So we're, I think, kind of in a minority of a lot of religious teachings. Question all and accept only that which is true for you. So always keep that in mind. No, you are to question. You are to say, is this true for me? And can I make this operate in my life? And if I'm not doing it, well, one of the things that we're here for is to help each other maybe look through those kinds of things. What is happening? But just to sit and say, oh, I know all these Bible verses, oh, I know this, I know all those principles, isn't enough. You have to be living it. People have to look at you and go, there's something different going on with them. Everybody else around here is looking sad and miserable or scared and worried, and she's not. He's not. What's going on? I want to know. I want to know. what they have. So unity recognizes there are many roads to truth. Many roads. So not just one. There is not just one way. Our primary instruction to our practitioners is to prove the truth for themselves. And that's what I'm saying. Prove it to yourself. Because you may find other roads that work better for you. Why are there so many different denominations and religions and things out here? Because there are many, many, many paths to God. And for us to say, I have the way. I have the way for me. You and all of you are to find what is that way for you. Our spiritual affirmation, so how many have here heard the word affirmation and know what an affirmation is? A positive statement. And prayer are offered as useful practice. They are offered as useful practice. I, as a teacher and a spiritual leader, will say, Amy, if you do this, this is what will happen, and this is what you have to do. It's offered. No, this really worked for me. Maybe, maybe it'll work for you. So offering that, which is again a very different way. So what you see in Unity churches, you'll see a lot of things that are very much in common, but you can go to Unity churches and see things that are very different from each other. And we get to decide, we as the church, we get to decide, do we have the Christ candle up here and how we are addressing that. We get to decide, how we do our opening and our closing and what is incorporated, how we decorate the church and how we don't decorate the church. That has nothing to do with Unity teachings. That has to do with who we are. It's the reason why you're important out here. You have input into how we operate here within this particular church. The only thing that Fillmore's ever cautioned about, and this has to do with some of the differences between New Age and New Thought and some of our awarenesses of other spiritual beings and things like that, and Fillmore said, be very careful that when you're involved in that kind of thing, that you don't think that your connection with God comes from other spiritual beings. You may have a connection with other spiritual beings. They're as much a part of God as what we are. But that's not your road to God. So just to be aware of that, because particularly when people are in distress, they can begin to feel like that. That has to do with a lot of things that we think of as new age healing processes. Not that they're not absolutely do well, but that's not the road to God. The road to God is only through our personal connection. So where can you find the textbooks? Where can you find these things? Why is Carol going to have a little printed thing to hand out for us? Why doesn't she just say, here, take this book. This will tell you all what it is. Well, Unity doesn't have one. The closest that Unity has to a textbook is Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady, which Emily Cady was not a Unity person. She wrote for Unity magazines, and the Fillmores were so impressed with how she expressed the ideas that they believed and that they were trying to teach, that they asked her permission to be able to compile those articles and maybe get her to do some other writing and to use that as the Unity textbook. So that tells you how different our leadership and our beginnings were. This is not somebody, a couple that says, oh, we have this revelation and all you have to do is read what we put down there. So very, very different in that process. And to touch on, so what's Unity's relationship to New Thought? So I mentioned New Age, New Thought. Remember here a few weeks ago, I talked about that. New Thought is very, very spiritually oriented. This is my thinking and how it affects me and how I make that connection to God. New Age is focused out here. These are things, these are processes, these are ways of doing things that are out here in the world. They are perfectly useful do however we want to make use of them. There's nothing wrong with it, but not to get confused that our connection is from within. And we make use of that which is out here. And what's really fun to think about is, what are some of the things that used to be thought of as New Age? And depending on, so yoga, massage, meditation,
Right.
all of those things used to be thought of as, it's way out there. Now we have doctors that are prescribing it. We have counselors and people who don't have anything to do with spirituality, but understanding that whole meditative process of quieting your mind. So New Age is a lot of practical things out here that is, a lot of them are gradually being transformed into, this is the way it's done, but you had to have the people who are willing to go out on a limb to be able to do this. And so meditation, yes, is labeled as New Age, but it's also very, very new thought. Because what does meditation do?
Takes you within.
It takes you within. It brings you within. It allows that mind to get quiet. And it's that quiet mind that leads you to make that connection with that divine within yourself. So here's what Charles had to say about this. Practical Christianity, the thrust and emphasis of the unity movement is to inform yourself of spiritual truths, and then through your everyday encounters, prove them to yourself. You got to get, there's this theme, prove it to yourself. It encourages people to make their lives their spiritual practice. How do I know whether you're in that place? I can tell by looking at you. And to come to know beyond a shadow of a doubt what Jesus Christ taught was the absolute truth. As well, it seeks to emphasize Jesus' message that what he did, we all can do and more. Jesus was very clear. I am not special. I am teaching you, if you are willing to embrace and practice some of the teachings, you can do these things. And here's an interesting. Charles Fillmore said that if you see any difference between you and Jesus Christ, you have missed the mark. Wow. That doesn't mean like I can look at you and say, oh, you can do this better than I can. Oh, you have this talent. You have this skill. But I don't see you as different from me. So we look at Jesus as a master teacher who really was out there and made that connection. But in truth, yes, he's God. And we just say, yes, I am God. You came to a place that knows that you are God. Yes, we are God. So if you see any difference between you and Jesus the Christ, you have missed the mark. So here, when you come to here, what are the responsibilities of being a member here? So here you know a little bit about what this is all about. So one of the things you may have noticed, the church is not interested in membership for membership's sake. We're not out there having membership drives. No, we're not out there saying, each one bring one. I mean, it's a great idea. We don't want to stop it. We'd love to see it full like this, or even fuller. So, Jesus was not interested in forming specific groups. His groups fluctuated depending on who was there, who was coming. And we hear about the 12, but we just hear about the 12 because they were the ones who, after he was gone, did the writing and put the information down, and they talked about themselves. We see many references to him sending out groups of people, and 70 at one point in time, and 90 at a different point in time. And so he was not interested in saying, he was that educational movement. Jesus was Jewish. What he was wanting to do was help people see those teachings. You can go through the Gospels, and there's very, very little in the Gospels that is attributed to Jesus that you cannot go and find in the Old Testament, in the Jewish Bible. He was wanting to do exactly what quote, New Thought is doing is to look at those teachings in a different way. So each Unity Church is founded on the belief and principle that Unity people unite so they can more effectively minister to the needs of the people. So why do we come? We come so we can have like-minded people to be able to talk to. The Fillmores had no idea there were going to be Unity churches. This was not something that was in their game plan at all. It developed, okay, we're beginning to think differently. As you begin to think differently, you begin to use different words, and you want to be around people who speak those words. And when I start saying different words and thinking differently, okay, you in my more traditional group out here are saying, Carol, what is that you're doing? And no, 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 and that's not the way it's supposed to be. So to gather together to have support. So what we say, when you join your membership here, you are here agreeing to support each other on their spiritual path, and we agree to support you on your spiritual path. So Unity Church believes that it's not just this building. It's real easy to talk about, oh, Unity Church up there in the mountain. But what would happen if this building disappeared for some reason? You know, we had one of those storms the other night. Would Unity Church still be here? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, and Unity is not unique in that. I think most churches really are totally aware that it is the gathering of people that is the church. But sometimes we forget something that's that. Obvious. It's so obvious we miss it. You know, that where is the true sanctuary? The true sanctuary is in our own soul. When people say, you know, I go out into the woods, that is my church. Actually, the woods isn't their church. It is, they take their sanctuary and they create that feeling of sanctuary within the woods, because there are people maybe walking right beside them that never crossed their mind that this is a spiritual experience. So knowing that that sanctuary is within ourselves. And so being Southern, you have to listen to this next sentence in a little bit different mind. So we enter into the Church of Christ when we understand that God is spirit and that we are made in his image, unfolded in his likeness, through embodiment of the spiritual ideas of life, love, power, intelligence, the ideals of all good, basic to true living. So I say that because we certainly have the Church of Christ out here that is not, it has a much more rigid framework for membership in there. So, but in that, if we want to refer to it as the Church of Christ, is making that connection in ourselves. And in becoming a member, you don't have to discontinue membership in any other place. You know? So we've had many people we've had Hindus who were members of Unity Church because this is where they felt loved and supported. You know, they didn't stop being Hindus because we didn't ask them to give up any of their beliefs. You don't have to have this belief to be supported in your spiritual path by what we are doing here. And another thing you need to know about Unity Church, so this is important, we are a legal entity. So we might not be the building, but we are a legal entity, and that is important for everybody to know. We are incorporated under the laws of the state of Alabama. We abide by all of those laws. You know, Jesus said, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and to God that which is God. So we do the rendering unto Caesar. We have a board of directors, which is required. We have 6, so we have the president, the vice president, the secretary, the treasurer, and 2 other members and the minister, which are all part of that governing body, and it's important that you know that and become familiar with. So our board of directors, stand up, so people can see. So these are the people, you know, to say, okay, if I have a question, if I want to bring, you know, an issue, or if I just have something I want to say, these are the people that you talk to because they're responsible. They're responsible for this church. You should also be familiar with the bylaws. Now, that little booklet that I have, and Susan, would you just give it and bring it in? We'll put them up here in the front. Has a copy of the bylaws in the back of it. However, if you would like a copy of the bylaws, we'll make sure we have some printed out just on its own. They're not very thick, but if you're familiar with that, you can say, oh, this is how things are supposed to be done. Or, you know what, this doesn't make any sense to me. Let me go find out why this is in here. So that is a responsibility of yours as a membership. And just like anything, you know, this church, you take care of this church, this group, you support it as you would your own body. What do I do for my own body? I nourish it. I love it. I support it. When something's not right, I do the best I can to find out what's going on, what needs to happen, what needs to change. And hopefully all of you with your own body are not going, so yesterday was not a healthful feeling day for me. And I wasn't sitting there going, why are you doing this? Carol, what's the matter with you? Why are you? You know, I'm sitting there going, I love you. You know, I don't know what's going on with you, but I love you and I accept you. And, you know, and that's how we come about anything that doesn't seem to be working for us. So, the body of Unity Church on the Mountain depends upon God expressing as attention, care, nourishment, love, blessing, inspiration, and support through you. So that's, don't worry about it, I'll get it afterwards. I must have walked the car. Oops. So the last thing about your responsibility. So, you know, I'm looking out here and your, it includes all of us, is entirely as Spirit directs. Now, we might want to guilt you a little bit because we need the help. But you listen to that voice of Spirit within you. The care and attention you give it is the care and attention you receive from it. Now, all of you know, the more involved you get, the more you receive back. The more you come to classes, the more you come to activities, the more you show up on Sunday morning. You know, it's this wonderful flow of reciprocity, because if I'm a member of Unity, and I love Unity teachings, and I even practice them, but if I don't ever participate in this group of people, I'm missing out on a lot. I'm getting a lot, but I'm also missing out on a lot, because it is that coming together in that process. So in conclusion, principle number 5. Intellectually understanding the nature of God is not enough. A person must also prove the truth to themselves and live it. To that end, all of you are encouraged to question all and accept only that which is true for you.
All right, thank you so much. Great message this morning as always.
With God our prayer of protection.
Our God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever